Why is the silence so deafening? Why do the actions of local Democrat PCOs, Green Party candidates, and Democrat state lawmakers fail to live up to their rhetoric when it comes to workers' rights and federal human rights? These are the questions that remain unanswered. Reflect on promises made on the campaign trail. Bold declarations of unwavering support for workers, pledges to fight for fair wages, and promises to lobby for stronger protections. Yet, the record for turning these promises into actions is disappointing. Let's look at Green Party candidates like Jason Call, for instance. They've pledged their commitment to workers' rights, but where are their voices in the fight for the rights of everyday workers? Their silence regarding fair compensation and working conditions is more deafening than their words. Similarly, Democrat state lawmakers such as Marco Leas have made grand promises, but their actions, or lack thereof, tell a different story. They remain silent on the urgent issues of workers' rights and federal human rights, seemingly siding with corporate interests and advocating for agendas that do not prioritize workers' basic federal human rights. Advocacy groups like Our Revolution, who are pushing for whole Washington and state single-payer healthcare solutions, have also remained silent on this crucial issue. The question then arises, why the silence? Why the inaction? Why are these politicians and organizations not addressing workers' concerns? Why are they seemingly siding with business interests and promoting agendas that disregard workers' basic federal human rights? It's not about party lines, red, blue, green, or in between. If you're not speaking up for our workers' federal human rights, every worker should be calling you out. Let's be frank, there's a gap between the promises made and the actions taken. This charade can no longer be tolerated. We urge these political figures and organizations to stop ignoring the plight of workers and start taking actions to ensure their rights are protected and prioritized in legislative agendas. Silence is not an option, and it is high time that the voices of workers were amplified, not silenced. To summarize, the silence and inaction of local Democrat PCOs, Green Party candidates, and Democrat state lawmakers on workers' rights and federal human rights are alarming. The discrepancies between their promises and their actions are clear. It's time for them to step up and start fighting for the rights of workers, the rights they so boldly promised to protect. This video serves as a call to action. It's time for these political figures and organizations to stop ignoring the plight of workers and to start taking action to ensure their rights are protected. It's time to hold them accountable for their promises, because workers' rights are human rights and it's time they were treated as such. Voiceover. It's time we scrutinize the conspicuous silence of USA Representative Rick Larsen and Socialist Sawant on the pivotal issue of workers' rights. Their conspicuous of vocal support and decisive action is as loud as their campaign pledges. Representative Rick Larsen, a Democratic Party stalwart, has often portrayed himself as a champion for the working class. However, his voice seems to mysteriously disappear when it comes to ensuring the rights of these very workers. Socialist Sawant, synonymous with her radical rhetoric and demands for change, is surprisingly tight-lipped on the subject of workers' rights. For these politicians, their responsibility to highlight and defend the fundamental federal human rights of workers should never be underestimated. These are the very rights they vouched to uphold during their campaigns. Their silence, their lack of action, signifies a breach of the trust vested in them by the industrious individuals they vowed to represent. This deafening silence must be shattered, and it's high time they began advocating for the rights of workers. It's time they ceased political maneuvering and started taking decisive action. Our demand is clear. The rights of workers are not just election rhetoric to be made and promptly forgotten. They are base human rights demanding urgent attention. It's our collective call for these rights to be placed firmly on the negotiation table. The establishment of another National Workers' Comp Commission, a plea that workers' advocates have been making since 1972. It is high time these demands are heeded and given the importance they deserve.